All right, it's going live.
Your screen blank now.
It is okay.
Yeah.
All right, we live right now. It's
Uh,
it's it's live. All right. Welcome to the Power of Offense with Keith and Rodney, and I'm your host Keith. And right below me on your screen is your host Rodney.
greetings. Peace to the gods.
Peace to the gods. It feels awesome today. We are finally going live. This is our first live show in a very long time, and it feels awesome. How about you, Rodney?
It definitely does. I miss it.
Yeah,
The connection.
exactly. And just to let everyone know, at some point we are going to open up the lines. So we actually have a call-in number, and if you choose to call in, you could definitely do that. And we also have a Zoom link that I'm going to post inside of the chat room. So again, please hop on. But today we're going to discuss licensing. All right, because we're going somewhere with this. So we're going to discuss licensing. So right up here on your screen, as you can see at the top, right here in the search bar in Google, I have defined license and I put law after it. Now, the reason why I did that is because whenever I'm searching for legal definitions, I always put law or either legal behind the word. Define, license, law. All right. So we're going to take a look at an online dictionary. And the one that we're going to look at is Cornell Law. All right. Cornell Law. Now, right here, it says license. Generally, a license is permission granted by a qualified authority permitting a licensee to do something that would otherwise be prohibited. Now, check this out. I want to show you all something. This definition, like all other definitions, right? Or shall I say legal definitions, come from, or they are a derivative of the John Bouvier's 1856 legal dictionary and encyclopedia. Now check this out. Right here, it says license, contracts. Matter of fact, let me highlight it for you. It says a right given by some competent authority to do an act which without such authority will be illegal. Now let's read that again. A license is a right given by some competent authority, right? So in this case, it will be a right that's given by a competent authority being the legislative branch, right? Now, as far as the federal government, it will be Congress. As far as your state legislature, it would be your General Assembly. They're giving you a right to do an act, which without such authority would be illegal. Now that's very interesting because you have various types of licenses like driver's license, marriage license. You have a lot of different licenses. So I guess it would be illegal to marry someone without the General Assembly giving you the authority to do it, or granting you the right to do it. What you think about that, Rodney?
Well, to me, it all depends on who you ask them, because if you compare license to the Constitution, do you really need permission?
That's a good question.
When you have the Constitution that say that you can do what you want to do as long as you don't infringe on anyone else's right. So why do you need a license to travel? Why do you even need a license to marry? Now, why do you need permission to live free among your fellow peers? You know what I'm saying? You know, is it authority, or is it what some people may call bullying or authoritarianism? Whenever they say that you need a license to do something, and as a result of you exercising your own free will, you're not causing injury nor damaging property. So a license, you know, they say you need a license for certain things, but do we challenge that? At what point?
Well, you know, that's a great question, because in this broadcast we're going to discuss a driver's license. Now we're going to discuss that. Now, in a upcoming broadcast, I would like for us to discuss marriage license. You know, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, and it's because it's a lot to unpack with that. You know, matter of fact, it's a lot to unpack with both, but I think what's most pressing for most people will be a driver's license. But I find it interesting that a license is a contract, right? And it gives you permission to a right that the General Assembly is basically granting you the ability to do. You see what I'm saying, Rodney? Otherwise, it would be illegal.
Yeah, but
So they call it a right. This is in the 1856 John Bouvier's Law Dictionary. Now I'm gonna go back to Cornell Law. Now again, Cornell Law says the license is generally a permission, right? Now it can be expressed or it can be implied, but in most cases it's expressed. So some type of instrument they give you, right? It's a permission granted by a qualified authority. And in most cases, that qualified authority is your General Assembly permitting a licensee, which will be us, right? Us citizens, to do something that otherwise would be prohibited, as in illegal. Now it says license may also refer to a physical document granting such permission, again, which will be an instrument. And it says sometimes referred to as a permit. So a license and a permit is similar, but they still different. Then it goes on and it says licenses may have territorial and or limits and can be revoked or forfeited. Now that makes sense because again, you know, when you're referencing a driver's license is issued territorial. You know, again, you know, each state has the ability to issue driver's license, and they also put time limits on it. Every so often you have to have it renewed. Now it goes on and it says permissions granted by a license are limited by the licensor's power to confer such permissions. For example, in Gibbons versus Ogden, the Supreme Court ruled that a license granted by the New York State giving Ogden exclusive use of a water route was void because New York lacked the power to regulate interstate commerce. Now I can agree with that, because under Article 1, only Congress has the right to regulate interstate commerce. Am I correct, Rodney?
Yeah. Congress has the right to regulate commerce, but on a federal level. You know, so was New York operating on federal territory, or were they operating in the state of New York?
Now that's a great question.
What was that license based for? Was it based on something federal, or was it based on something dealing with the state? You know what I'm saying? Because the state has a right to regulate its own commerce, except whenever it interferes with federal. You know what I'm saying? Because Congress has the ultimate power to regulate commerce because they provide money to the states. One, but they do give states the opportunity to, as their own individual state, to regulate their own powers. That's why they have the governors, their own assembly, and everything else that the federal government have. So that'll be interesting to know what type of license. Like, why would the federal, you know what I'm saying? Why would the federal intervene with what the state is doing, unless it's dealing with something federal?
That's a great question. We may have to read that case law one day. That's a great question. Now, Cornell law goes on and defines license as, it says, licenses may be granted by public or private entities. A common example of a public license includes a marriage license. Again, we're going to discuss a marriage license at a later date. It says professional licenses, business licenses, and licenses to drive. Examples of private licenses include licenses to use land or intellectual property owned by another. And it says, with respect to real property, a license is permission to enter or use land or property owned by another in a manner that would otherwise constitute a trespass. License to use or enter another's land may be expressed or implied. So when I read that, that makes me think about what's the name of that app? Oh man, the app where people can lease their house.
Like Airbnb?
Airbnb, yes, Airbnb. Airbnb is an application where property owners can license their property to anyone that they choose for a certain amount of time. Then it goes on and it says in intellectual property IP law, licenses allow individuals and entities to use patents, trademarks, and creative works owned by others without infringing on the owner's property rights. IP owners have the right to exclude others from using their property as conferred by statutes such as 35 USC section 154. When IP owners license use of their IPs to others, they effectively agree to forfeit their right to exclude the licensees from using the IP for a typically limited amount of time. IP owners benefit from licensing because they maintain ownership over their IP while profiting from a licensee's use of their IP. IP licenses are usually formed contractually as license agreements with fixed terms, and owners usually profit from royalties paid by the licensee in exchange for the use of their IP. IP licensee is intended to reward innovators with incentivizing release of the IP into the public market. Now, what I find interesting about that is that we actually did a video not that long ago where we discussed digital rights, and we were talking about intellectual property being content that that we all own. You know, we all pretty much own our own content on the web. And we were discussing a case that was filed by a young lady named Jessica Gardner, aka Miss Average at Best, against the popular image consultant and YouTuber Kevin Samuels. And we talked about this exact thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Rodney?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, a permit, all right, because I want us to lay this out there before we start talking about a driver's license. Now, permit, right? And we're going to take a look at Cornell law. We're going to see what they have to say about a permit. How do they define a permit? And it says a permit is a license or other document given by an authorized public official or agency, for example, a building inspector or the Department of Motor Vehicles, that allows a person or business to perform certain acts. Permits are intended to guarantee that laws and regulations are obeyed, but they also are a source of public revenue. Now, let's take a look at what John Bouvier's Law Dictionary had to say about permits. Here we go. A permit is a license. So permit is a type of license or warrant to do something not forbidden by law, as to land goods imported into the United States after the duties have been paid or secured to be paid. So a permit is a type of license.
It's still a, yeah.
Now I found something else that talks about this. And right here, as you can see, I put in license versus permit. And right here it says licenses are more general, granting permission to do something or use something. Right. Then it says, for example, cosmetologists must be licensed in a state. Permits are usually given for safety issues like health permits and may require an inspection before they are granted. Like a permit to carry a gun is another example. Now, I thought that was pretty interesting. And it makes sense, like a building permit. Here it goes right here. Like right here, it says, what's the difference between a license and a permit? The distinction between a license and a permit is subtle but important. If you look up the definitions for both, of which we did, it says you'll see the other mentioned as a synonym. A license is defined as a permit and vice versa. Licenses are more general, granting permission to do something or use something. For example, a business wanting to sell liquor must get a license. Licensing often implies competence, and licenses are usually required for people who are in professions that do harm to someone. Sometimes a license requires a test, as for a professional license. For example, a cosmetologist must be licensed in your state, so like a barber. Permits are usually given for safety issues, like health permits, and may require an inspection before they're granted. A permit to carry a gun is another example. And then it says, here's one way to look at the difference. A nail salon or hairdresser must have a business permit and usually a health permit. And the nail technologist or hairdresser must be licensed.
To me, licenses and permits are a result of the public, the people, Americans, being unintelligent, uninformed, and miseducated. Because if you look up when licenses and permits really took its foothold here in the United States, it was back in the 30s, right?
Right.
And it kind of coincides with that 1928 manual, you know what I'm saying, that speaks on democracy, speaks on citizenship. Right at that time and prior, the citizens of the United States, they were more informed, they were more intelligent, they were better educated. As a result, it made them more honorable. It made them less. It was less of a chance of someone really ripping you off, you know what I'm saying, or stealing, or cheating, or defrauding you. Although it happened, you know, that been in play for centuries prior to, but it's nothing like today. You know, it's today. There's a whole organization, government organization, just to stop people from stealing on the internet. What's called that all this cyber crime. So all this cyber technology, the cyber school, all is a result of people wanting to take something that doesn't belong to them. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, all of a sudden, over the last 80, 90 years, the American citizen had pretty much lost their way. You know what I'm saying? They don't have the knowledge, the education, the understanding, the moral turpitude to conduct themselves in the manner that they would want to be treated. You know what I'm saying? Hence, that was a perfect opportunity once the American people started to become dumbed down, once they became hungry during the Depression, once all these negative things started to happen, they could easily bring in what many call the welfare state, and as a result, making you get permission from them. You know, in a sense, we're going to help you be able to eat, be able to provide for yourselves during the Depression. It's going to be a cost, and the cost is you now need permission to do things that you naturally are able to do if you are honorable, if you're educated, if you're intelligent, and if you're informed. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that all that has been, it appears to me, has been systematically stripped from many Americans. Hence, we have all these babysitting rules where you need a license or you need a permit. You shouldn't need a permit or a license to do anything. Let's make that clear. You know what I'm saying? You should be able to do anything that you choose to do as long as you don't infringe on someone else's rights, property, family, or cause of injury. So we want to get this understood up front. So now we're talking about all these licenses we have to have, all because of, in my opinion, based on facts, based on history, based on just in general, that we need all of this extra precautions because people don't know how to conduct themselves as a result of being miseducated, misinformed, and unintelligent. I just wanted to put that in there because I don't like all these licenses and permits and all this stuff, but I understand why they exist. They, you know what I'm saying, they exist to protect those who are vulnerable and those who carry themselves in a respectful manner.
Right. Now, I'm gonna say this, Rodney. I'm gonna push back on what you're saying a little bit later in this broadcast.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna push back on what you're saying. However, I have the manual up, and you made some valid points. You made some really good points. You know, and for those of you all who are not familiar with this manual, this is the citizenship manual that was issued by the War Department, aka the Department of Defense. And it was issued on November the 30th, 1928. It is Citizenship Manual number TM 2000-25. All right. Now, I'm gonna prove what you're saying, Rodney. I'm gonna drop right down to it. What Rodney was talking about is democracy. Now, most of our listeners are probably used to saying things like, we have to stop calling our government a democracy. I mean, we talked about this a lot. You know, we say this in, I want to say, at least every other video that we do. We try to bring up something involving the fact that we have a republic, not a democracy here in America. And what Rodney is talking about is right here in this manual where they describe democracy. Now, democracy is a government of the masses, right? It results in mobocracy. The attitude towards property is communistic, negating property rights. But most importantly, what Rodney is referring to is that it results in license. License, right there. It results in license, agitation, and discontent. Am I correct, Rodney?
Absolutely.
Now let that sink in, y'all. Now, I'm of the opinion, Rodney, we're gonna get there, that I think some acts should have some type of credential like a license. Although I'm aware that it results in agitation and discontent.
Give me an example.
Well, see, I want to unpack this. I want to unpack it. Yeah. We're gonna get there. And you know, I got to figure this out because, and I apologize to our listeners, I don't know why it's not showing you and me on the screen at the same time, Rodney. So just to let our listeners know, I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out as far as how to do live meetings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's only showing who's talking, I believe.
I think most of them are like that. I don't know how it works. My wife is on Zoom every day, so she has it down pat.
Yeah, see, we got to figure this out because when we do the Zoom when we're not live, everyone sees both of us.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I know. We'll figure it out.
All right, go ahead.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm gonna push back on that, Rodney. But I do want to play something for everybody. All right, I want to play something. And let me get this video ready. All right, here we go. Here we go. And I'm just going to play a short clip of this video right here. All right, now, Larry Elders, right? Larry Elders was giving a tribute to the late but great Dr. Walter E. Williams. Now, Walter E. Williams was a professor, right? He was a professor at of economics at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, and he was a constitutionalist. So I would have to, I must say that I look at Dr. Walter Williams as one of my mentors when it comes to my understanding of the Constitution. You know, I like a lot of stuff this man say, but just listen to his credentials. Larry Elder is going to lay it out right here. Fair use, fair use.
Well, my friend and mentor of some 30 years, Professor Walter E. Williams, just died at the age of 84. He is, to my knowledge, the only Black person to become the chair of a non-historically Black college or university Department of Economics.
Now, let me stop right there. I think that was pretty hot. You heard what he just said, Rodney?
Yeah.
That Dr. Walter Williams, right, as far as his knowledge, is the only Black chair at a non-historical, historically Black college.
Yeah, that's hot.
That is. All right, so I want to lay it out there because I wanted to build, I got to build the credibility, because this next video clip I'm gonna play, everyone is going to hear Dr. Walter Williams speak on licensing. All right. So here we go. Fair use, fair use.
This woman, who's good at braiding hair, 10 years ago she moved from Africa to Utah. She assumed she could support her 2 kids by using the hair braiding skills she learned in Africa, and she did for 4 years. Did this in her home and made decent money. But then the government shut her down because, as this video from the Institute for Justice explains, she didn't have an expensive and useless cosmetology license.
That license requires at least 2,000 hours of classroom instruction. That's 40 hours a week for 50 weeks. That is more class hours than it takes to be an armed security guard, mortgage loan originator, real estate sales agent, EMT, and lawyer combined. And not one of those 2,000 hours teaches African hair braiding.
I'm gonna stop right there real quick. Did you just say what he said, Rodney?
Yeah.
Over 2,000 hours. Over 2,000 hours of studying time she must have, like continuing education type of stuff. More than what an EMT worker needs. More than what an attorney needs.
Yeah. To me, that goes back into part of the definition that you read when it says that it's a source for making money.
Yeah. It does. It does, and that's why I'm laughing every time you bring it up, right? Because I'm like, I agree with you. However, I will give you some pushback on this.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going.
Hair braider Justina Clayton joins us now from Utah, along with Paul Avalar, her lawyer from the Institute for Justice, which took her case for free. Paul, the license costs thousands of dollars for a class that's useless, really?
That's correct. In all those 2,000 hours, they don't spend any time teaching you how to braid.
So why do they pass a rule like that?
Well, what happened was the state just passed a really broad law and left it to the cosmetology board to interpret it and enforce it. And the cosmetology board is made up entirely of cosmetologists who don't like competition.
So they get to work with government to keep competition out. And Justina, you were doing this for 4 years, and then you think a competitor complained?
Yes, I actually got an email The email threatened to report me to the licensing division if I continue to braid.
But you'd already
And
gone
so-
to the licensing commission, and they said, oh, hair braiding is okay.
Yes, but the cosmetology lady told me that the situation had changed and that I needed to go to school now and get a license.
Maybe the situation
So-
changed because your competitors complained. And the school really doesn't teach hair braiding, but you'd have to go anyway?
Yes, I called about 6 schools along the Wasatch Front, and they told me that they don't teach braiding and that I needed to, if I want to specialize in braiding, I would have to get independent help with that.
So they also told you if you want to work, you have to go to the legislature and get them to pass a law to allow you to do this. And you started
Yes.
to do that.
Yes,
They told you that if you kept braiding, went back into business, you'd be fined $2,000 a day.
well, the first offense is $1,000. The second
a
offense and
bargain.
any subsequent offense is $2,000
So,
each day.
Paul, I mean, this is nuts, and this is not unique to Utah, right?
It is not unique to Utah. There are about 10 states that explicitly require people to go get this expensive, useless license to braid hair. And about half of the states don't have a rule. They, like Utah, just leave it to the cosmetologist to decide whether or not they want to be competed with.
And states always create these licensing boards, and licensing sounds good to people. They don't realize they get captured by the established business.
Absolutely.
And when we called them, they said, we don't make the laws, we just enforce them. But you've gotten these laws overturned. You're 7 for 7 at the Institute for Justice.
That's right. We've
Or not overturned, but they give up when you call.
Yeah, that's right. In 7 states, we've sued about this very same issue. California fought us, and we beat them in court, and every other state and the District of Columbia has just given up the fight.
And Justina, one of the cosmetologists said, if you don't get a license and you don't go to school braiding people's hair, you might make them bald.
No, braiding is, completely safe. It is reversible, so no, it doesn't hurt. It's not harmful.
But the government wants to stop you, and it used to be that 1 in 20
Yes.
workers needed government permission to do their occupation. Today, it's 1 in 3. They keep passing more of these rules.
That's right. And occupational licensing laws fall hardest on minorities, on poor, on elderly workers who want to start a new career or change careers. They just help entrenched industries and businesses keep out competition.
I want to stop right there because to me it makes sense what he's saying. The whole purpose of licenses is pretty much to control all of the competition. And it is ridiculous that this woman has to get a license to braid hair. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it controls competition, and it just provides jobs for people to do nothing.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
But I gotta say this though, Rodney. If we talking about somebody like an armed security guard, because I know he brought up an armed security guard, as well as like EMT, I can understand professions like that where you may need a license, and that's
I don't
just
think you need license for that. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm waiting for your pushback because I'm ready for that joint. But
all right.
But yeah, go ahead and get
Okay. Because to me, I'm like, well, what credentials should these people have to prove that they're capable of carrying out their duty? It still should be some type of credential they have.
Are you asking me?
I mean, to me, it seems that way. I mean, we could wait because
Okay, go ahead.
we'll give you some pushback. All right, let's keep going. Now, coming up, everyone is going to see the late but great Dr. Walter Williams, and he's going to discuss the same situation.
Outside this studio, just out there, are 10,000 yellow taxis. And it's intuitive to think that government should license those cabs, make sure they're safe, make sure the drivers are competent, limit the number of them so you don't have chaos out there. And they do license taxis here in New York. They license them to death. You can't just buy a cab and start picking up passengers. You have to buy a license from another cab company, and that now costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Regulation itself has priced poor people out of the taxi business.
I drove a cab back in 1957 for a while. I made about $125 a week. The drivers in Philly now tell me they make about $250 a week.
they could make much more if they owned their own cabs.
But what stops them? It's the thousands of federal and state regulations that are imposed on the U.S. economy. Sometimes getting a license requires a friend in the business. All those licensing laws do just one thing: keep outsiders out.
I mean, I can see when a medallion in New York now costs $600,000, it keeps poor people out. But are you saying just have no licensing, let anybody hang out a shingle, just go by, offer to pick people up? That frightens people.
Well, compare New York City, where a license to own and operate a taxi is $603,000 as of last year. Well, there are not many black-owned taxis in New York City. You go to Washington, D.C., and you see most of the taxis are owned by blacks. And so can you say, oh, well, there's Washington, D.C. is just a wonderful city for blacks. No, it takes $200 in order to get a license to own and operate one taxi, and that makes the difference.
The unintended consequences of well-intended regulation.
I'm gonna stop right there. What I'm getting from what Dr. Walter Williams is saying, right, is that yes, licensing is sometimes unnecessary, right? This is what I'm getting from this. But it also depends on how much the license costs. Example, they just talked about in New York, in order to own a yellow cab, it costs over $600,000 for a license. But in DC, during the time, it was only, what did he say, $250?
Yeah.
So basically, licenses are also used to price out black people. Oh, I say black people, I meant to say poor people. But the reason why I say black people, because I seen something very interesting in the background. You see that, Rodney? It says the state against blacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Like that. Yeah.
And that's why he said you'll see more black cabs in DC. It's not because DC is just a great place for black people. It's because they can afford the licensing. So licensing is a way to drive out competition.
Yeah, yeah. And the 600-something for the license, that price has gone down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it used to be in the like $1 million something dollars. I remember that vividly back in the day.
Right.
You know, so that's why, like, New York drivers had Uber drivers back in the 80s and the 90s. People waiting at the airport wanting you to pick you up and take you around, stuff like that. I didn't trust any of that, but now in hindsight, looking back, that was Uber. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't an app, but it was a whole line of dudes, and it was organized. It was a whole line of people up there with no license, no nothing, that just pick people up. People jump in the car and just go about their way.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, but I find that funny. You know, basically licenses used to keep poor people out. But let's finish this off.
Yeah.
Hurting the people that the politicians claim to be helping.
I don't think that they're unintended. That is, what incumbents want to do, they want to keep outsiders out so they can charge higher prices, and they make payoffs to politicians to keep the system in order.
I agree. I believe it's intended also. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And also, I want to give a plug. I would like to tell our listeners, please check out libertypen.com. Also, they have some awesome information over there. Yes, they do. Now, let me get to my pushback, Rodney. Let me just, matter of fact, let me just go straight into it. All right. I have a case for everyone. Now, this case is Delaware versus Prowse, and it's from the Federal Supreme Court, and it was issued in 1979. All right. Now, this case talks about driver's license. All right. Driver's license. Now, I'm going to read this case. All right. Now, I'm not going to read the entire case, but I'm going to read, I want to say it's maybe 3 paragraphs to make my point. And I'm going to start right here. All right. It says, but the state of Delaware urges that even if discretionary spot checks such as occurred in this case intrude upon motorists as much as or more than do the roving patrols held impermissible in Bernani Pounce These stops are reasonable under the Fourth Amendment because the state's interest in the practice as a means of promoting public safety upon its roads more than outweighs the intrusion entailed. It says, although the record discloses no statistics concerning the extent of the problem of lack of highway safety in Delaware or in nationwide or in the nation as a whole, we are aware of the dangers to life and property posed by vehicular traffic and of the difficulties that even a cautious and inexperienced driver may encounter. We agree that the states have a vital interest in ensuring that only those qualified to do so are permitted to operate motor vehicles, that these vehicles are fit for safe operation, and hence that licensing, registration, and vehicle inspection requirements are being observed. Automobile licenses are issued periodically to evidence that the drivers holding them are sufficiently familiar with the rules of the road and are physically qualified to operate a motor vehicle. The registration requirement, and more pointedly, the related annual inspection requirement in Delaware are designed to keep dangerous automobiles off the road. Unquestionably, these provisions, properly administered, are essential elements in a highway safety program. Furthermore, we note that the state of Delaware requires a minimum amount of insurance coverage as a condition to automobile registration, implementing its legitimate interest in seeing to it that its citizens have protection when involved in a motor vehicle accident. Now, right there in the middle of that paragraph, Rodney, it says automobile licenses are issued periodically. Matter of fact, let me highlight this because this is a part of my pushback. Automobile licenses are issued periodically to evidence that drivers holding them are sufficiently familiar with the rules of the road and are physically qualified to operate a motor vehicle. So as you can see, because some people like to make the argument that an automobile or car is different from a motor vehicle, the federal Supreme Court uses the words automobile and motor vehicle synonymously. So they mean the same thing.
That doesn't make that it means the same thing, because an automobile could be the vehicle you use to travel. You know, so fraud could be the vehicle used to steal money. So whenever they use it interchangeably, and as it is synonymous, but vehicle and automobile are not the same technically. And I just explained why. But the point is taken. The point is taken. It doesn't matter which one they're saying. You know what I'm saying? They're saying motor vehicle, automobile, car, all those little trick words, travel, and all that stuff that people use. All that is just, it means the same to me. You know what I'm saying? Because we all understand and understand what each other means. So we don't have to say vehicle, but I know a lot of people play that game. You know what I'm saying? The automobile, the vehicle, you know what I'm saying? But if you really want to break it down, you know what I'm saying? Automobile is an automobile, and the vehicle could be construed as an automobile, but you won't say an automobile can be used for fraud. You know what I'm saying? But you can't say fraud can be used as a vehicle to steal money, but you can't say fraud can be used as an automobile to steal. You know what I'm saying? So right. So they do have different meanings within the context of the same subject matter.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Rodney. Let me ask you this. Now, again, the crux of where I was getting at is this sentence right here, right? Because, and the reason why I'm saying this is because you have a lot of individuals in the conscious community, as well as in the what the government calls the sovereign citizen community, that believe they do not need a driver's license in order to operate a car on the public roads, right? They actually believe that they don't need a driver's license. And I'm like, you have case law that say that you do. Now, I'm not saying this. The federal Supreme Court is saying this. They're saying that this license is issued periodically, of which it is, and the evidence that you, the driver holding it, are familiar with the rules of the road and you are physically qualified to operate that car. So again, if we're getting rid of all licenses, right? what credential should people have to prove that they can operate a car?
Yeah, we already had this discussion, and it's easy. You know what I'm saying? You can go for anything that they're saying you need a license for, right? A license. That's for hair. That's for barber. For operating an automobile, driving, for anything that they're saying that you need a license, right?
Right.
You don't need a license to know how to do those things, but you do need knowledge, right? So if you can get the knowledge to prove that the evidence that the drivers holding them is sufficiently familiar with the rules of the road and are physically qualified to operate a motor vehicle, they can do that without charging somebody a license, because you can have a test. You know what I'm saying? You can have a test in order to prove just what they're asking for. They're using that as a tracking device, a penalty point system, in order to intrude on our privacy. Now, you do need to know how to operate a car. You need to know how to drive. I don't want to be on a road with somebody who can't drive. You know what I'm saying? And they have to be proven that they are familiar with the rules of the road. So you can go to school and do all that, take a test and be qualified. So at what age after you first get past and because you can learn how to drive. There's people that I learned how to drive when I was 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? My uncle taught me how to drive. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have a license at 12, did I not know when to stop, how not to hit nobody, when to slow down, when to drive fast, when to not to drive. I knew all that at 12 and 13 years old. No license, no nothing. You know, because I was taught by someone competent. You see what I'm saying? Right. They took away the competency of our family structure and the government structure, and they're replacing it with what we have today. That you're incompetent, that you're uneducated, that you're uninformed, and that you don't know how to conduct yourself in the public and keep people safe. You know what I'm saying? That's where it's broken. That we don't have that structure in family nor in government, because if we did, we wouldn't be on the air teaching people about the Constitution, teaching people about the simple basic things of being a citizen and being able to conduct themselves in America. You know, so the mere fact that education, that knowledge, this results in us being unintelligent because, one, the government is not teaching it anymore in the schools, and two, it results that the family that's sending their kids to these schools that don't teach what they really need to know in order to keep their government in check. You feel what I'm saying? So you can do everything that you do to make sure people are right. You know what I'm saying? The reason why they have real estate agents, because people were selling property that didn't belong to them. How do I know that? Because I studied the history of real estate licenses, because I used to be a real estate agent for over 20 some years. So the reason why they put the license in place, because people was showing pictures of beautiful land, but then when you go buy it, you know what I'm saying, it's swampland. So to protect people from fraud, they say, okay, well, we got to put some sort of mechanism in place to protect those who are not aware when they do commerce. You know, you should understand, like the buyer beware. A person should be an educated buyer, and a person should be a honorable seller. You know, if one of those things don't meet in the middle, that's where the fraud and someone being taken advantage of exists. You feel what I'm saying? So a lot of these licenses for a doctor, because a person will say, well, I can cure this and cure that, you know what I'm saying, but couldn't do anything, and they injured people in the process. You know what I'm saying? So therefore they had to put these licenses in place, because they took away the honorability of people who healed people for years without a license, for centuries actually, who did the same thing that we're doing today, who built properties, who built pyramids, who built structures with no permits, with no license, but they had the knowledge, the school, the structure from their society that was able to produce those who were able to build massive structures. So it's the ignorance of the people that put us in a position to have to be babysat with all these licenses. So I agree that you need licenses and permits because of the mental condition of the people today. We need it. But 100 years ago, we probably didn't need it as much, although they were still people that was not honorable when they, that took advantage of people. You know what I'm saying? That's another check, because people will take advantage of you if you don't know. But at the same time, if you are educated, informed, and understand, you will be taught how to operate in commerce and not get beat. So I get everything that they're saying with the license and stuff, but I'm blaming the reason why we need all of these licenses and protections is because of the dumbing down of society over decades.
You know what? I can agree with you on that. I can definitely agree on that. Because people at large, the population is misinformed, uninformed, and unintelligent. So I agree. But I want to keep going.
I agree with what you're saying too.
Yeah.
What you're saying is absolutely correct. But I'm saying it's a reason why we need all this shit. And that's the part that I'm pushing back against.
Right.
I'm pushing back against the reason why we need to be babysat the way we're babysat. The reason why we need the license for all these things. The reason why cyber security is the biggest, one of the biggest businesses now. You know what I'm saying? To prevent somebody from stealing. Why we need all these security guards? To prevent people from stealing, because there's not enough. Commerce is not fair for everyone to make an honest living to take care of their family. So they result in doing things like almost whatever it takes. That's the mentality that they have. And I think if the government is rich and powerful as this government claims to be, that the citizens should be in much better conditions than they are today.
Right. I agree. Cause see where I was getting at is, like, let me skip the next paragraph. Let me get to this paragraph right here. It says the foremost method of enforcing traffic and vehicle safety regulations, it must be recalled, is acting upon observed violations. Vehicle stops for traffic violations occur countless times each day, and on these occasions, licenses and registration papers are subject to inspection, and drivers without them will be ascertained. Furthermore, drivers without licenses are presumably the less safe drivers whose propensities may well exhibit themselves. Absent from empirical data to the contrary, it must be assumed that finding an unlicensed driver among those who commit traffic violations is as much more likely event than finding an unlicensed driver by choosing randomly from the entire universe of drivers. If this were not so, licensing of drivers will hardly be an effective means of promoting roadway safety. It seems common sense that the percentage of all drivers on the road who are driving without a license is a very small, and that number of licensed drivers who will be stopped in order to find one unlicensed operator will be large indeed. And then basically what the court is laying out, because what was happening is you had the state trooper that was just randomly just pulling over drivers, and they were pulling them over without probable cause. In other words, trying to find drivers that weren't licensed. You know what I'm saying? But it laid it out there perfectly, because again, that's why I said I had to push back on what you're saying, Rodney. Because to me, like for example, I'm a capitalist. You know what I'm saying? I support capitalism. However, I do think some social programs are not that bad. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right about this.
Capitalism just has to be fair. If it's fair, you know what I'm saying, we wouldn't need as many social programs as we have. You know what I'm saying? But commerce is not fair. So therefore you need all the extra social programs. You know what I'm saying? You need programs because everyone need a help every now and then to get back on their feet, to they may get injured, they can't take care of themselves. So therefore we're fortunate to have a government with a system who can help. Because if you ever been outside of the United States, you know that many countries don't have systems to really assist those who injure themselves. So
that's real.
I totally agree with the capitalistic view.
Right. Right. That's real. That's real. And it's kind of funny because I actually pulled this up too. Let me just show this. You know, I thought about some of the arguments I've heard over the years, and you know, I've heard a lot of people say things like, you know, I'm a driver. You know, when I'm driving my car, no, they say that I'm traveling in my car. They say I'm not driving my car, right? Yeah. So how can it be a driver's license if I'm not driving? Which the definition of driver, right, according to Black's Law Dictionary, and I have it right here. It says a driver is one that is employed in conducting a coach, carriage wagon, or other vehicle with horse, mule, or animal, bicycle, tricycle, or motor vehicle. And they say, well, I'm not a driver. So, you know, you can't issue me a driver's license. I don't need a driver's license because I'm not a driver. You know these arguments, Rodney.
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of chuckle at it now. I mean, you know, back in my neophyte days, you know what I mean? It used to seem like legitimate arguments because I didn't understand what I understand now. But I'm like, simply all you have to do is go to your the state code annotated. And I just pulled this up in Maryland Code. And this is Maryland Code of Transportation. And this is the vehicle laws, and it give you definitions. And it defines what a driver is. So if you were in the state of Maryland, right, and they saying that you have a driver's license or you need one in order for you to operate a car, they're saying the driver means any individual who drives a vehicle, right?
But then it go back to the word. See, that's the trick, because you can't use the word drives defining the word driver.
Yeah, but check this out. But then it says drive, right? Now I define drive. It says drive means to drive. So drive is in the definition: operate, move, or be in the actual physical control of a vehicle, including the exercise of control over the steering of a vehicle being towed by a motor vehicle. Now, the way the state use it, they're saying that a car is still a motor vehicle.
But where's the word car in here?
A car is not in. It don't say it.
Where's automobile in here? There you go. That's a whole nother argument. That's a whole nother argument where we'll spend all day on. You know what I'm saying? We don't even have enough time to decipher this trickery that the state of Maryland is doing when they're using drive, and all that. But I get the point. The point is well taken, but it's still in it's an overreach. All this shit is like an overreach.
Right.
It's overreach and an infringement on people right to travel. A person, because the fact that we have cars and that shit causes great death, damage, and injury, that people, just anybody ought not be able to get behind an automobile and just go.
You're right. And I gotta say this. Hey Rodney.
I don't think people should lose their ability to drive, travel, whatever you want to call it, because they drive 75 in a 50 mile an hour zone. They will take your what they call privilege to operate and travel in a car, and I think that's bullshit. You know, because there's no injury, there's no damage, and that's an overreach. And that's what they do in general. They overreach what they call an authority to impose all these licenses, all these restrictions. So now they got us in our mindset that we need this shit in order to move around and travel. And I don't think we really need it, but we need to know how to operate in a safe manner to where we don't injure and damage. And that's what they should be teaching. They should.
I agree.
They should be teaching the citizens how to operate these vehicles, automobiles, cars, whatever you want to call it. They should be able to teach them how to operate in a safe manner. And those who don't do that can't do it. You got to
Rodney,
buggy, bicycles. You can't drive a car, but you can travel another manner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's my point when you're dealing with being able to drive a car, automobile, whatever you want to call it. You need to be able to operate it in a safe manner. And if you prove that you don't operate in a safe manner by causing injury and damage to property, you, my friend, have to catch the bus, ride a bicycle, a moped, like they do up here in Delaware, the horse and buggy. You got to do something else other than drive something that can cause so much injury and death to another person.
But hold up, hey Rodney, we have a question in the chat room, right? But isn't a car a vehicle? It is.
A car is a vehicle you use to travel. I already said that.
Yeah.
Fraud is a vehicle used to steal money. A gun is a vehicle to use to take somebody's life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A blockchain is a vehicle used for cryptocurrency. You feel what I'm saying? So vehicle
good analogies
is a whole bunch of stuff. A car is just the vehicle used to travel.
That's true. That's true. Now,
I love those questions. That was a good question.
Yeah,
the judge asked me that question before. I love it. You know what I'm saying? And then when I explained it to them, they chuckled and still found me guilty because that's how bullish Maryland is.
Yeah, they are. They are. They are. Because right here, and I'm gonna tell you, when you said, well, I don't see I don't see car in the definition. So I just put a motor vehicle. I'm like, let me see if car is in here or automobile. And I must say, I don't see car or automobile. I don't.
Because they know, man, Maryland sharp. We got a whole big. You must don't. Do you still have that big declaratory judgment we did when we broke all the definitions in? You actually broke everything. You remember how that?
Yeah, I remember.
How that stuff existed.
Yeah.
So we had a good argument, but the point is, for the safety and to protect property and the safety of people need to prove that they can operate a car, motor vehicle, whatever you want to call it. Those things are four-wheel that you need a key to crank up, or you now got the button to crank it up. You need to prove that you can operate or drive or whatever you want to call that motor vehicle, that car, automobile, without damaging property, without injuring people. Driving 75 in a 50-mile-an-hour zone, to me, doesn't warrant losing your right to use an automobile or car vehicle. That's my point. They're overreaching when they charging all this extra money, all these extra fines and fees to try and say something is illegal, but you're not causing any type of damage or injury. You're just not doing something the way they're trying to force you to do. You know, so what? You driving 70 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, and everybody else driving 75. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's an overreach, and I can't explain it no other way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely understand. I definitely follow your argument. I do. You know. But and another question is
that's the mindset that we was trained in. You know, we've been trained in this mindset since growing up. When you was 12, 13, 14, 15, you couldn't wait to get a license when you turned 16 because that's what was conditioned.
That's true.
Wait. No matter of fact, when you was 15, they contracted with you too early anyway. It was void. You know, when they contracted with you at 15 to get your learners, you was happier than anything on this planet almost. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
You was happy to jump into that contract because that's how you was conditioned. That's how your parents was conditioned and your grandparents was conditioned. Depends on how old they are. My grandparents was in horse and buggy. You know what I'm saying? But it all depends.
That is true. I mean, that's a great point. Now, there's another question. The other question is, are there any preventative measures, meaning like speed limits, things like that?
Well, speed limits and anything of destructive manner, that comes from the condition of how you was raised.
So let me ask you this, Rodney. Now, in a society, again, just going back to a society without driver's license, right?
Right.
How do we ensure that people follow preventative measures like speed limits?
Right.
How do we hold them accountable? Because and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you where I'm getting at with this. To me, without some type of credential, some type of instrument to prove that they are capable of operating this car, right? Automobile, motor vehicle, the person can easily say, well, I didn't know what that sign meant. And see, if you have to pass a standardized test in order for you to receive this credential of which we call a driver's license, you can't say that. You're obligated to know that. You had to know that to pass. So it's a form of accountability.
And again, we're talking about we're talking about misinformed people, uneducated and unintelligent people. You know what I'm saying? We have to be, because if you're talking about intelligent, informative, and educated people, and that was rooted growing up in how to conduct themselves, how to respect your fellow man or woman, we wouldn't need all that. But we're not there. You know what I'm saying? We're in a society where it needs governance. They created the fact that we need to be governed. So everything that you're saying, of course, the mindset of which the people are today, most of us, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna need a license. You're gonna need speed limits because people don't know how to conduct themselves in a safe manner. You know, and again, I'm gonna go back to that 51 murder thing. Anytime somebody can describe 51 murders, not knowing the consequences here in this physical realm of taking someone's life, and you talk about it on a rap, whether it's true or not, it warranted police surveillance, and to look at that means there's something wrong there. It's something wrong with the people in general. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree.
What type of system is in place to where someone is crazy enough to suggest what they did and actually put the people pictures up and actually explain how their life was lost? You know what I'm saying? What type of society produced that type of person who would actually go on TV? This video shit is TV. Who would actually go on TV and make that type of confession? You feel what I'm saying? So the fact that we even have in this conversation, we need everything that's in place because of how we was dumbed down, how we were miseducated, misinformed, and unintelligent. We need all those things. So I can't argue that we don't need it today, but I'm telling you the condition we would be in, the fact that we wouldn't need it, why some of us don't, because everybody is not in that mindset condition. You know, you are not, I am not. So we don't need all those things, but many of them, the critical mass of us need it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it may be hard for some to really follow or understand what I'm saying. You know, because I'm speaking from a different context and I'm going against the educational system, everything that we've been taught and learned our whole lives. I'm going against that because I know better. You know what I'm saying? I've read better, I've studied better, just like you have. So you know. So that's why, although we still push back on each other, we know deep down what it is because we done studied it, we done lived it, we done seen it. You know what I'm saying? But for the sake for those who may not travel that path, we have to I guess explain it in a manner to where we have to meet them where they are. But at the same time, I'm still trying to raise you up. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I don't even know if I answered the question. What was the question?
we was talking about preventative measures and hold people accountable. Yeah.
So you have to hold people accountable, in my opinion, in the state of the condition we're in today. We have to have all of the speed limits and everything in that manner. But go back to when cars were first invented. You know what I'm saying? All those things didn't exist, and it wasn't all those accidents and all those heinous incidents with the automobiles. It was when other things started to be introduced into society that resulted in people driving extra drunk, or people or having to track people down because people are committing crimes and using these automobiles, and the sheriff with the horse couldn't catch them. So they need some sort of way to identify that car speeding off, you know what I'm saying? And that's why the tag and registration come in, you know what I'm saying, to protect those, or to be able to identify those who cause damage, who cause injury, you know what I'm saying, who may do something that's against society. You know what I'm saying? So we have to prevent it now in the state of in the state of mind that we're in now. We need speed limits, because if we didn't have speed limits, people would be driving 90 miles an hour in a 25 miles an hour zone with the red bus with the lights with kids in front. We would have people just speeding out there. I see people doing that now. You know what I'm saying? So we need that because of the condition of our mindset.
Right.
Which was,
I agree.
Which was which our mindset was conditioned by those who are in charge, what people call authority, what people call legislation, what people call Congress, what people call Supreme Court. You know what I'm saying? These are the people who condition this mindset in which we are today, which is to me crazy.
I agree. You know, man, I gotta say this. I don't know if anybody want to come on, ask any questions. I actually put the Zoom link inside of the chat room. I'm trying to figure out how to drop the phone numbers in there because it's several of them. And I apologize to everyone. Again, this is my first time doing a live like this. Well, our first time.
Yeah,
and then I'm gonna tell you something else too, Rodney. The music is kind of bothering me. You know what I mean? And I just remember how we used to do it a long time ago. We used to when we went live, we used to add the music when people start talking.
Yeah.
When you know what I mean? But it's just kind of throwing my whole thought process off.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to make adjustments. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Yeah. That's what
I apologize, everyone. I do, because I feel like the show is it's okay. Not as good as some of our other work. You know, I'm a little thrown off by the music. It's a lot going on. I'm like, I got to get used to this.
You have to forgive us. We'll get it straight.
You know.
In other words, don't look at the messenger. Look at the message. You know.
Yeah.
We're the messengers, but we're trying to convey, hopefully, what we deem as good information to help our fellow citizens out.
Exactly.
Citizens, Americans, whatever you want to call it. There's so many name games. You know, fellow humans out, fellow people out. You know, we want to do our best to get our government to act according to the Constitution they took the oath to.
Right.
And that way it'll benefit all of us.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point. And I appreciate the comments in the chat room too. Yeah, one comment that the music is nice, but then it's slightly too loud.
We was trying to tweak that, Joe. I thought I had it right.
Yeah,
we was trying to tweak it.
Yeah.
We got a friend of ours that's gonna put together some music, so we're gonna have a different quality and different style of music. I have a friend of ours that does music, so we're gonna have some nice instrumentals. So and if anyone has who do their own music, we welcome that as well, because that's what we did last time. We had people, they were sending in their own music, conscious music, and it was nice.
Yeah, Hustle Workaholic, man. If you're listening, Hustle, man, please email me. You know, I know we're supposed to get up. I agree. I definitely agree. It's just I got to get used to, because see, when we normally record everyone, we do the recording and then I add the music later. So the music is added afterwards. You know what I mean? It kind of, especially when I'm reading, it kind of throws me off. I'm like, you know, trying to read to the beat.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna figure this out. You know, but I do think it's good that we go live, because again, you know, as we move into like various topics, it would be nice to hear from our audience, you know, to get their opinions, all of that. Because again, iron sharpens iron. So, you know, as much as we know, you know, we know that all of you all know a lot too, and all of it need to be shared. So, yes, indeed. I guess any last thoughts, Rodney?
Nah, not right now. But I like the topic. But this is what needs to be conveyed, the understanding. And all questions, comments, and corrections are welcome.
Yes, indeed. And one of the upcoming shows, we're going to talk about the marriage license. Now this should be a really good debate between you and me, Rodney. It really should.
Yeah.
Because I already know where you stand with it, but I got to give you some pushback on it. I got to give you some pushback on the marriage license too.
Yeah. I mean, any license, you don't need no license. All that shit was kept in the Bible. You don't need
Right.
you don't need none of that babysitter stuff. All that stuff was created just for them to make money and get rich off of while enslaving us. That's my position across the board. But I understand why it's here and why it's needed in the mental condition that most of us are in today. So I get it.
Yeah. And see, you know, my pushback is going to be based upon the facts of what we cover.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those could be facts to support my pushback.
Yeah. Exactly. I get it. And they create it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They create the problem, and so therefore they create the solution. You know, that's the oldest game in the book. You know what I'm saying? To me, it all boils down to being honorable, one, and you can't be honorable without a foundation of family, of tradition, of character building, and that is passed down from generation to generation. But somehow it's been breached. You know what I'm saying? That's been breached, and the government stepped in and put us in position where we are today. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that stuff is based in history.
Yes, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Are you going to study and read books, or go to school, or are you going to worry about feeding your family? Most people would worry about feeding their families. You know what I'm saying? A person would do almost anything to feed their family. So they're not going, change the education system, change everything, but put some chicken on my plate for my babies. You know what I'm saying? So you start to think less about your liberties endowed upon you by your creator, and you think more about the right here, right now. And I get that as well. But at some point, that has to change.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It has to change. We have to know that our ancestors been had, because this didn't happen in our lifetime. You know, this happened prior to. We are the receivers of what was created. So therefore, it's our duty, if there's any change to be changed, for us to make that change.
That's real.
By any means necessary, as our brother Malcolm X would say.
Yep, and get back to the republic.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm thinking this.
That's why when they say that the Constitution wasn't written for Black folks and this and that, I agree. But at the same time, they definitely understood through the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, all women are created equal. But what they never said in the Declaration of Independence, that all men will be treated equal, as it's clearly been seen. That we're not treated equal, but they acknowledge the fact we are equal. And if you go deeper, they realize that we're not so equal. You know what I'm
well, you know what? I think that would be a really good show. I think that would be a really good topic to have, because like, even as far as the Reconstruction Amendments, you know, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the equality clause in the 14th Amendment guarantees equality to all persons, but the equality that is referencing is equal opportunity. It doesn't mean equal outcome. Some people confuse that. It's equal opportunity. Now I'm like, if you want equal opportunity and equal outcome, then that's socialism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But capitalism is equal opportunity, and then the outcome can vary.
Yeah. But if the outcome, in other words, if someone putting their foot on the scale for the outcome, you know what I'm saying? That goes back with it being fair. You know what I'm saying? If the opportunity is fair, the outcome would be a result of what you put into your opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So we all have our opportunity, but if we don't put that same work for the opportunity, we're not going to get the same results.
Exactly.
If we putting the same work in, the same opportunity, and somebody got their foot on the scale adverse to you, that's what we have an issue with, and that's what we need to wake up to.
Right. Right. I agree. Yes, indeed. I think this was another hot show. I got to make a note of that too, man. I got to write that down. I think that would be a awesome discussion because that right there, talking about equality again, goes into capitalism versus socialism. You know, equal opportunity, but it don't mean equal outcome.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Example, Dell Computers, right? They specialize in personal computers for a very long time. So did Gateway Computers, right? They had the same opportunity to sell personal computers, but guess what? Gateway pretty much went out of business. You don't even see their computers anymore. But Dell is still around. It's a multi-billion-dollar company.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Equal opportunity, different outcome. But yeah, I'm thinking, man, at this point to just wrap it up. You know, we appreciate all of you all that listen in. We really do. And we're gonna get this thing together. You know?
We appreciate it, man. Give us
hey Rodney, I feel a little rusty, man. Going live.
That's right.
You know.
It'll be all right. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And we catch you all on the next one.
Till next time. Peace.